So, Harry, do we have new poll numbers for President Biden post-debate?
We do. You know, CBS News YouGov conducted some polling post-debate. We can compare it to the pre-debate numbers. And the bottom line, Al, it's not any good.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America. Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. We are still dealing with the fallout from Joe Biden's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad debate. Democrats are still freaking out, still panicking, trying to figure out what Biden's abysmal performance means not only for his reelection campaign, but for every Democrat down ballot as well. The number crunchers are out there, polls are being taken, and we're starting to see some of these numbers come back in, and Democrats are not liking what they're seeing. They're seeing that Joe Biden is in a freefall after his debate performance. We're going to look at some numbers, some rumored numbers, and some actual numbers from reputable news sources, and try to read the tea leaves of all this. But before we do all that, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you're seeing here in this or any other video on the channel, you guys know what to do already. You got to smash that thumbs up button. Like, comment, share the show with your friends. All that really, really good stuff, because all of that feeds the YouTube algorithm.
Feed me Seymour.
As always, thank you guys so much for all that you do to help grow the channel. You know I appreciate everything. And for all you newbies out there, I hope this video earns your subscription as we go behind the numbers of Joe Biden's horrible, terrible, no good, very bad debate performance, and try to read some tea leaves as to what all this means for November. Let's start with this screen capture of a table that purportedly shows Biden's internal post-debate polling. This was leaked by Puck News, and these numbers, as Clay Travis says on his X account, are a disaster for Joe Biden. I'm going to pull up the entire table right here. Biden is holding on barely in Colorado and Minnesota, by a thread in Maine. And then look at after that here. New Mexico, Virginia, New Hampshire, Wisconsin. These are not Republican strongholds. Biden is down in all of them. And even further down in Pennsylvania, down almost 8. In Arizona, almost 10. And if you look at the first column, cumulative EV, electoral votes, this puts Donald Trump over the top and then some. There is a doomsday scenario approaching for Democrats if these numbers are to be believed and if these numbers are coming from Biden's internal polling. It's jaw-dropping what happened after the debate. Look at the third column in pre-debate margin. Joe Biden was winning in many of the states that he's now losing in, and the margin has only grown. It's a 2 to 2.5% margin in just about all of these states. And again, these are not Republican states. We're talking about New Hampshire. We're talking about Michigan. My goodness. Joe Biden's numbers are dropping daily as a result of his horrible debate performance and the subsequent freak out by Democrats. But you know what? Let's forget those numbers. They're not verified. They're from a leak. Puck News says they're internal polling numbers from the Biden campaign. We have to take a lot on faith with those numbers. So let's put them to the side for the moment. There are other numbers out there from news agencies based upon their polling that are showing Biden's post-debate performance fallout being just as bad, if not worse, than what Democrats have been thinking it was for the past couple of days.
We're joined now by CNN senior data reporter Harry Enton. He was here to run the numbers. So, Harry, do we have new poll numbers for President Biden post-debate?
We do. You know, CBS News YouGov conducted some polling post-debate. We can compare it to the pre-debate numbers. And the bottom line, Al, it's not any good. It's not any good. Look at this. Voters who say that Biden has the mental health to be president. It was just 35% pre-debate. Look where it's dropped to now post-debate, 27%. How about that he should be running for president? It was 37% pre-debate. It's now 28%. I have never seen numbers this bad for an incumbent president during my lifetime. I mean, that mental health to be president, just 27%. You might say, okay, you know, that's low, but a lot of people thought Biden was too old back in 2020. These numbers look nothing like this back in 2020. These numbers were bad already. And the truth is, Allison, they have gotten just considerably worse, even in just a few days after that first presidential debate.
I absolutely love watching Harry Enton on CNN. He is the Chicken Little of polling in mainstream media. The sky is always falling when he's on screen. We saw it when he was discussing black voter numbers under 50, how they're moving towards Donald Trump and leaving Joe Biden. I'm going to put that video in the upper right-hand corner of the screen right now. His hyperbole is just music to many conservatives' ears. He sees what's going on now in the numbers, but we've been seeing with our eyes and observing the campaign that this was always coming with Joe Biden. We've seen it in his speeches and his cognitive decline. We've talked about his feeble mind, his feeble body all the time on this channel.
I tried to warn you.
So while it's nothing new for us, Democrats' worst fears from last Thursday are now being shown in the data, and it's causing even more of a freakout than there was last week.
Please proceed calmly to the lifeboats located in the main hallways.
Please stay calm.
Harry, do we have polling yet that suggests that voters want a different candidate?
Yeah, this is the whole question, right? If it's not President Biden, then who could it be on the Democratic side? And the truth is, there are no easy answers. You know, I went back and looked at the polling versus Donald Trump for a bunch of different Democrats have been suggested. Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris.
And Trump's beating all of them. Now, this looks to be data going from a long time since November, it says on the screen. I'd love to hear Enton's insights as to how much of this is pre-debate, how much of this is post-debate.
Look at this. They all trail Donald Trump. So the idea here that we're somehow going to get this magic bullet, that there's somehow going to be some Democrat who can beat Donald Trump easily, I just don't see it in the numbers.
Anybody got an idea?
At this particular point, if Joe Biden takes on Donald Trump, he's trailing. If there's another Democrat who runs against Donald Trump, they too are trailing. Perhaps you want to make the argument you bring in another Democrat who isn't as well known as Joe Biden, who has universal name recognition, and maybe they could change the numbers. But the fact is, any Democrat who entered the race right now, at least among those that are being suggested by a bunch of folks, they would all enter the race at this particular point as an underdog to former President Donald Trump.
But
That's an actually interesting point from Enton right here. Maybe Democrats would be better off, instead of going with a known quantity like a Whitmer or a Newsom or a Kamala Harris, to go with some other Democrat who is not as greater in visibility as these people are, and therefore don't have as much baggage as these people have, and have that quote-unquote dead dog Democrat start from scratch, build up their reputation on the campaign trail to contest Donald Trump. That's an interesting scenario here. But again, I want to answer to the question about how much of these numbers were from before the debate and how much were after.
Harry, are those numbers old numbers or are those since the debate? I mean, maybe the conversation has changed.
Yeah, those are not numbers that have been taken since the debate, though I was looking at numbers that were post-debate. This takes into account an average, a long-term average, right? Because the key is I don't just want to rely upon one polling number. But even the limited polling data that we have post-debate suggests that none of those candidates on your screen, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, or Kamala Harris, any of those would be favored over Donald Trump. He leads against all of them, whether you look at the pre-debate numbers or the post-debate numbers. And of course, I like to look at an aggregate of numbers, so that's what I did. But the fact is, even if you just did post-debate, it really wouldn't look any different.
Now, that is a bit of a trust me bro statement that he ran the numbers, and we don't know how much he weighted numbers from pre-debate, post-debate. He says it goes back to November. That's a lot of data to crunch right there. And the weight that you give to that data really will determine the validity of what we're seeing currently today. I would think that polling is out there already, looking at these other people, Newsom, Whitmer, and Harris, seeing how Democrats feel about them, seeing how voters in general feel about them in a head-to-head against Trump. And by the way, where are the RFK Jr. numbers? How does he play as a spoiler if Joe Biden gets out of this race? Does he get a bit of the Biden market share of these poll numbers? Very interesting stuff to think about here. A lot of permutations out there. When we come back from the break, though, we're going to look at the historical significance of Biden's freefall and decline post-debate, and maybe read some tea leaves as to what ramification this debate that happened in June will have in this coming November. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show.
Do you have any precedent for how lopsided Thursday's debate was?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take one solace if you are Joe Biden, the fact is first debate winner margins. Look, Donald Trump, more people by a 34-point margin said that Donald Trump beat Joe Biden in the debate. That's not much different than what Joe Biden's margin was over Donald Trump 4 years ago. It's actually larger than the Hillary Clinton margin that she had over Donald Trump. But you may remember that first debate back in 2012 where Barack Obama just did horribly. Mitt Romney won that debate in the voters' minds by 42 points. But of course, he didn't become president. Barack Obama was reelected. So I guess if you want to take a look on the one bright note is there is a history of someone losing the first debate as an incumbent and going on to win the presidency. And that was 12 years ago.
So Joe Biden is not Barack Obama. Let's get that clear right out of the way here. Yes, Romney won the first debate back in 2012. He did so handily. It was a very good performance for him. It ended up being the peak of his campaign. And it was all downhill from there as Obama kind of got his stuff together and ended up winning re-election. It's very hard to beat an incumbent. Let's make that clear. They have a lot of power and they have a lot of resources behind them and they have the title behind them as well. Hillary Clinton did well, but not as well against Donald Trump. Remember, that was an open seat, so not too much we could read into that. Joe Biden did well and ended up beating Donald Trump, but again, that is sort of an outlier election because of COVID. So you do have to go back to 2012 to glean what this first debate means for a candidate. Now, Barack Obama was able to get his stuff together, like I said, in the next debates. And Obama, compared to Biden, presents like a gleaming jewel compared to the cow dung heap that is Joe Biden when he speaks. Sure, he's great with a teleprompter. We've seen that subsequent to the debate. But he is not great at thinking on his feet or speaking contemporaneously or having data at his fingertips. It's just not an apt comparison, in my opinion. So the fact that Joe Biden finds himself in a self-created hole that is now much deeper than when he first started digging it during the debate, I don't think that bodes well for Biden, and I think he is going to break that trend that they're alluding to with what happened with Obama and Romney in 2012.
Okay, so you're saying that somebody, I mean, you have seen examples of somebody, coming from behind, basically, in that way after a poor debate.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, that is true. But here's the thing that I would note, which is that Joe Biden was trailing going into the first debate, okay? Barack Obama was leading. So I want to limit it down for you. Incumbents who were trailing going into the first debate and then lost that first debate.
Oh no, they're bringing out Jimmy Carter. If you're an incumbent and you're being compared to Jimmy Carter, that's not a good thing. That's pretty bad. So these are incumbents who trailed prior and lost the first debate. So Joe Biden has been falling behind to Donald Trump even before the debate, and he's in a deeper hole now. Let's see what good old Harry here has to say about these scenarios.
Well, how about Jimmy Carter lost that one debate he took on Ronald Reagan in '80. George H.W. Bush lost that first debate to both Ross Perot and Bill Clinton. And in 2020, Donald Trump lost that first debate to Joe Biden. Well, guess what, Allison? They all lost. They all lost. So the question is for Joe Biden, can he defy history, create new history, and be an incumbent who trailed going into that first debate and then won? Well, he's going to have to do it if he wants to get reelected in November.
That is one hell of a steep climb out of there.
Now you see why Democrats are panicking here. This is now a much steeper uphill climb for a candidate who is apparently compromised when it comes to cognitive ability, the cognitive load to handle contemporaneous speaking, to handle retention of facts and data, to recognize vectors of attack, to speak clearly, to not trail off, to not have a gaping mouth. Joe Biden is compromised in many ways. That's why this discussion is going on amongst Democrats. That is why today, according to Jake Tapper, the Democratic governors will be meeting to discuss whether they should be backing another candidate other than Joe Biden. This is why there are rumors of Michelle Obama looking to fundraise for Kamala Harris.
Must smell blood in the water.
It's a big mess on the Democrat side. Gretchen Whitmer, after the debate, it's being reported, said to Biden's campaign, it's official that you can now not win Michigan. Now, again, all of this is guessing and supposition by all of these people involved here. No one knows what's going to happen in November. We can only talk about indications. And remember, I always say to you, take these polls with a grain of salt. They're good for talking about the moment, but not good at predicting the future necessarily. What this all does is, for the moment, it confirms and reaffirms the panic that all Democrats felt last week after Joe Biden's abysmal debate performance. And that's why you're seeing all the machinations in the background. You're seeing all the speculation. You're seeing all of these people talking about, do we stick with Joe or don't we? There's sure going to be more data coming in to inform that choice. But as we head into the 4th of July holiday, things don't look good for the Biden campaign, even within his own party.
We live in a crazy, mixed up world.
But hey, listen, that's just my opinion about all of this. What do you guys think? Let's get into the comments together. And as always, like and share the show with your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. Is Joe Biden's campaign doomed? Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's discuss these numbers. Let's crunch them together. Let's read some tea leaves together in discussing this video and all the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in Dumbmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.